Welcome. My name is Stephanie Rowell. I'm here today at the AIIA 2018 National Conference with Dr. John Edwards, ADSA at the Curtin Institute of Public Policy, and also a fellow at the Lowy Institute. To begin our discussion, John, let's turn to the trade war. How should Australia respond to the increasing tensions between China and the US over trade?
Well, I think trade conflict is not at all in our interests. We don't want it. We'd like it to go away, and whatever we can do to mitigate it, we should be doing. And I think one thing we can do, given that we're not a hugely important player, given the size of those two economies, is to attempt to clarify the issues for both sides. If indeed the issues are about, for example, intellectual property and subsidies, then I think there is a role for us to clarify the extent to which these things are a difficulty, the extent to which they interfere with good trade relations, the extent to which they're covered and not covered by WTO rules, and possible reforms of WTO rules that would maybe be agreeable to both sides. Anyway, I think we do have a kind of a possibility of a role there in clarifying exactly what this dispute is about.
And I think when you mention the WTO rules, it's important that we recognise the dispute between the two countries over those rules, and much of the dispute is over the rules of the game fundamentally, and China wanting to have some influence over the rules of the game. Do you think that we'll see an international consensus on trade like we used to in the heyday of the WTO and GATT regimes, or will we see increasing regionalisation with China and the US both proposing their own models of trade rules?
I don't know that the US is actually proposing at this point a set of trade rules that could be adopted by the WTO. And I don't know that China is opposing one. When it comes to the WTO, the real problems in advancing, in reforming, in extending the agenda have been South Africa and India, not China. I think there is a role there for third parties. At the moment, the EU and Japan are playing that role. Canada will be hosting a conference later in October aimed at exactly this issue, and we're participating in that. I think there's a case for saying Australia, given its long history in the WTO, given its capacity to contribute, ought to be playing a more prominent role in defining what rules might be acceptable to both of the major players.
And looking more broadly at Australia's position in the region and the world, what policies do you think Australia should prioritise in order to maintain our economic strength and leadership in the Asia-Pacific region and in the WTO or globally on these issues?
Well, I think we should, as indeed I think China and the US should, in thinking about their prosperity, focus mostly on things they themselves can do in their own countries. And in our case, for example, I think it's our prosperity depends upon the quality of our education. And that's the thing we should be most attentive to. Externally, I do think we can play a role in evolving a new set of trade rules. I think we could do more to get behind a regional trade agreement that would include China and potentially the US as well.
Wonderful. So thank you very much, John, for joining me today and discussing these really important issues for Australia's future and for the world globally. For more information, please see our website, internationalaffairs.org.au, the Australian Outlook blog, or subscribe to the YouTube channel.